Welcome back to Two Therapists Walk Into a Podcast. I'm Stephanie Edsall, an LCSW here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
And I'm Robin Green, an LCSW here in Tucson, Arizona. In the last episode, we talked about shame, how it settles into the nervous system, and why it can linger even when we understand where it came from. Today stays with that thread, moving into what often develops alongside it. When shame becomes familiar, obedience often follows as a bodily strategy.
And that obedience often isn't conscious. It's not a decision we make. It's something the nervous system learns in order to stay safe, avoid disruption, or preserve connection. Remember, it's that biological function, whether we realize it or not. Our body is really trying to help us out, not hurt us.
Right. And over time, that can quietly replace something essential, our sense of internal leadership, our own sense of, having our own control, our own compass.
Right, a sense of autonomy or agency. That's something I talk about a lot as far as, did you get a self? Did you get an opportunity to develop a self really outside of the collective or this system? So that's why we're exploring authority obedience and the loss of self as a nervous system pattern many people had to learn. You're not alone. If you've ever noticed yourself deferring, complying, or second guessing, even when something doesn't feel right, this episode is likely going to resonate. As always, remember this is education, not therapy. Take what fits, leave what doesn't. You're in charge of your own pace here. Before we go further, let's pause together. See if you can orient toward choice as a way of arriving.
Notice one small preference your body has right now. It might be subtle, how you're sitting, the pace of your breath, or whether there's an impulse to shift or stay still.
You don't need to act on it. Just notice that preference exists. That noticing alone is a quiet form of internal authority. Many people were taught, directly or indirectly, that authority lives outside the body, that someone else knows better, that listening to yourself is risky, selfish, or just somehow inherently wrong.
Yeah. And that being good often meant being compliant, agreeable, or even easy.
But over time, everybody's nervous system adapts to that environment. Internal signals become quieter, preferences feel confusing or even unreliable. Decision making shifts outward toward rules, expectations, or other people's reactions.
And this is going to reflect repeated adaptation rather than a lack of insight or confidence. It's what happens when self-override becomes a habit rather than a choice.
When choice is consistently removed, the nervous system looks for some form of relief, some way to self-soothe.
Right. And then that relief often shows up in a few familiar patterns. For some, it can look like collapse, that numbing out, disengaging, or feeling chronically exhausted. For others, it's resentment, doing what's expected while carrying quiet anger or depletion underneath. And then for some, it's rebellion, pushing back hard, not from regulation really, but from overload.
Yeah, pick me. That was me. I was that rebel, the black sheep. And now as I'm recording this podcast with you 30 some odd years later, I can reflect that none of um, these are not flaws for any of us.
Right. They're really signs that agency has been missing for too long.
Yeah, I like that. Or even has it been established? Have we had an opportunity to build
The,
that?
yeah, the permission, I like to say.
Yes.
Have you given
Yes.
yourself permission to like be something else, be someone else? Give yourself that permission to allow yourself to make that choice.
Develop. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Well, here's today's nervous system nugget. Obedient nervous systems collapse. Autonomous nervous systems regulate.
And regulation requires access to choice. So when choice feels dangerous or disappears altogether, the nervous system loses that flexibility.
Autonomy here refers to access to choice. It means access to your own internal signals, those cues, your preferences, and limits. This is where people often worry they're becoming selfish or difficult.
Right? And rebuilding internal authority is about restoring contact with yourself over time. So choice doesn't destabilize the nervous system altogether. And really recognizing that what does destabilize the nervous system is, again, as we said, that absence of choice.
Yeah, that forcing ourselves to do things or shaming ourselves. I often tell people, if it was going to work by now to be this hard on yourself, you probably wouldn't be here with me. Not pushing ourselves through this and racing the whole time and forcing it's sending more signals that it's just not safe. One way to begin repairing this is through micro choices.
Right? Not big decisions, not confrontations, some low stake moments where you ask what feels slightly more supportive right now.
Ooh, that's nice. I like that. It might be posture, pace, tone, or timing. Those small choices teach the nervous system that self-direction doesn't automatically lead to danger. Here's a reflection you might sit with after listening today. Where in my life do I notice myself overriding small preferences? And what might it be like to let one of them matter?
If trusting yourself feels unfamiliar, that unfamiliarity makes sense given how the nervous system learned to adapt over time. It learned to look elsewhere for safety, and it regulated sometimes within chaos.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something people don't really understand is like how that baseline was, that threshold was set was, wow, that is chaotic. And what peace feels like can be pretty unsettling. It can be pretty jarring, but reclaiming that trust through this process is not rebellion, it's repair. And we talk about that often. Repair is very important. And remember, healing isn't linear, and we're here for the ride.
Thank you for listening today. Take what was helpful, set down what wasn't, and give yourself a little space to land as the episode comes to a close. More grounded conversations, science, and practical nervous system tools are on the way next week. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not therapy, does not provide medical or mental health advice, and does not create any kind of therapeutic relationship. For personalized support, please reach out to a licensed mental health professional in your area or contact your local crisis resources if you're in immediate need.